Now, in order to do this activity, you're going to need data files. So if you click on this data file, or that link, you'll see it brings you to the data files for all of the chapters for the whole course. We're in chapter 1, of course, so you'll go to chapter 1. And there's really only one data file there, because you're only going to work with one data file in chapter 1. Double click on that, and that opens up into a Google Sheet. Now, here's the data. You can see it's a decent sized data set. This is data from Milgram's actual study. This is his real data. Now, in order to analyze this data in JASP, which is what you've previously downloaded, you'll need to convert it from this Google Sheets format into something called a CSV file. And you do that by clicking on File, Download, over and down to CSV. So if you click on that, you'll just want to save it to your downloads file somewhere where you know where it is. On this screen, it comes down here, so when I click on this, it will open as a CSV file. Now, I don't really need to open it, because what I want to do is open it into JASP. So I have JASP open over here. And if you click in this little area, you can open a file. And I want to go to My Computer. And I want to go to Downloads, because that's where I saved the file. And there it is. And then it opens up. And then we're going to need to use this program to answer several questions in Activity 1.1. The first set of questions in Activity 1.1 asks you to deal with this variable. I should maybe review briefly how all data files are going to be organized. Each column is a variable. So this is a variable that was asked, where they asked psychologists to make a prediction about the results of the Milgram study. And then they gave a number based on what their prediction was. And then each row is a person in this data set. This data set, that one rule is violated in this one data set, but this is for individual 1 for this variable. This would be individual 1. This would be individual 2 for this variable, and so on. Now, there's these little icons for each variable next to the name, and that icon tells you the scale of measurement that variable is measured on. Now, this variable is a scale. That's why it kind of looks like a ruler, maybe a measuring stick. In order to get what's called a frequency table, which is something I'll show you how to do here in a second, with this variable, you're going to have to change this from this scale variable to an ordinal variable. And you simply do that by clicking on the little icon. It won't work if you click on the name. You got to click on the little icon. Click on, it's already a scale, but in order to get a frequency table, which is what we're going to want, you're going to have to change it to ordinal. Notice how the symbol changes. So let's go ahead and demonstrate some of the things you're going to have to do in Activity 1.1 with JASP. So if you click on Descriptives, and then Descriptives again, you can see all of the variables in the data set are listed over here. The first thing you'll have to do in the activity is work with this psychologist predictions variable. So you'll move that over. Now you could put all of the variables over there at once, but it might make it kind of confusing. So I'd recommend doing it one at a time until you get the hang of it. Now you can see what happened automatically. As I moved this over, the results automatically appear over here on the right. If I push that back, notice it's blank, right? As soon as I do it, it generates the results. Now I'm going to want a frequency table here. So if you click on that box, then I'm going to get my frequency table. And if we want, we can use these little navigation arrows to move things around. This brings me back to the data. This shows me my analysis options screen and then my output screen. And you can make this bigger or smaller as you see fit. So some of the things you're going to have to do in the activity is really reading this table. Like this frequency distribution table. If you look at it, you're going to have to identify what the highest score is. Well, these are the scores. This is participants had to respond based on how high they thought, how many what level of shock they thought a participant would administer to a confederate. And you can see by the highest score here is 20. This is the X column. This is the actual score, and this is the frequency. So one person said that they would go to 20, right? So this is the number of, so 4 people said 8 was the highest level that people would go, and so on. You're going to have to find the mode. Well, the mode is the most common score, so it would be here. So the mode is 10 because 14 people said it. 14 is not the mode. No, 14 is what makes 10 the mode. The total number of responses you have is given down here. So there were 40. If you add up these, there's one score that's missing. So if you And then another thing you're going to have to do is find the number of responses over a specific score. So how many people gave a score of 12 or more? So you would add up these. Don't count the missing one. So he gave a score of 12 or more. Well, 12, 2, 13, 2, 21. So it would be 5. Something else you're going to have to do is the percentage of responses over a specific score. So you're going to have to add up the people who did respond and divide that into the number in the numerator, which would be, in this case, say I wanted the percentage of people who said 12 or more. So it would be, again, 5 is the number of people, and then we need to divide that by 39 or 40. It depends on whether this total includes the missing score or not. So you want to count those up to make sure you know whether you should divide by that 5 by 39 or divide by 40. Make sure you know whether or not this total includes the missing or not. Then you want the score at a given percentile is another thing you'll have to do. So 9 is the score, and it is at the 51st percentile. That's the cumulative percent. The cumulative percent is the percent of scores at a given level or below in terms of score value. So 9 is at the 51st percentile because 51 and some change percent of the scores are at or below a score of 9. Okay. We can also do some graphs if we wanted to. So if you click on plots here, we can generate a plot of the data. So again, this is really the exact same information we saw here, but just presented graphically rather than in a table form. Now, a graph is useful because it allows you to see the shape a little more easily. You can clearly see where the mode is. That kind of pops out. You can see that scores are kind of spread out, lots of variability in scores. And that's pretty easy to see in the graph, a little more difficult to see in the table. But the table is better in terms of precision. Like how many people gave a score of 10? Well, it would be really hard to tell from the graph, but it'd be really easy to tell from the table. So again, both of them are useful, but for different purposes. I think that's enough information to get you started with Activity 1.1. If you have any questions, of course, you can always give me an email or contact me in some other way, and I will try and answer your questions. I hope it all goes well for you.